How to Beat Addiction, the wooden peg. So in Zen, there's this idea that there's a giant stone and there's a wooden pillar or peg holding it up, just one. You kind of see those Zen stones sometimes where there's a tiny stone holding up a giant one. And the idea is kind of like Indiana Jones style, where you have to replace it so everything doesn't come crashing down. So it's holding it up. So that's the addiction. So you have to trade out a good addiction or a less bad addiction with your current addiction. And I think AAA does that. They kind of do the whole Jesus religious thing. That's basically the wooden peg is AA. They give your life up to God. It's like they become God addicts, as my friend used to say. There's like the God talkers. That's all they talk about. Still a better addiction. If you look at the net positive, that's better than being an alcoholic or drug addict because we often think we could just beat this addiction. But what are you going to replace it with? I think a lot of men, we do the gym thing, and I did that for myself in a lot of ways, and I still kind of do. I kind of find, I'm giving up poker, for example, and I kind of thought, well, what am I going to do with my time? I'm used to, every week, every couple of weeks, playing with friends or playing online or something like that. And the better addiction is going to the gym. Those I have a 24-hour gym membership for this purpose. I got it years ago, and that's I wanted something where I have no excuses and get blow up the excuse factory. So it's like, oh no, it's 2 a.m. and I want to play poker. Oh, just go to the gym, right? And so I kind of use the 24-hour gym membership as that in a way. It's you can always get a workout in. You can do active recovery. So I kind of feel like as a human being, we're not strong enough, I don't think, to just go cold turkey. Unless it's something you already didn't like that much to begin with. Like for me, drinking, I was never much of a drinker. And even with diet, I used the wooden peg a lot, where I was having kind of gallstone issues or even digestive issues because I'm kind of gluten intolerant. So I was still eating it, but I was causing punishment. So I'm kind of, I need something. Like I tried to go cold turkey, completely clean diet, and then I just find myself binging on sugar or this and that. And even that's kind of happening now. I used to kind of eat like sugar-free ice cream or something. And then I've gotten away from that. So now sometimes I'll like get donuts when I really shouldn't or something dumb. And so I've kind of learned that we think we're so strong, but under pressure, for me, it's when I work 24-hour plus shifts, something crazy like that. Then I start wanting to treat myself. I want this and that. And so I've learned to kind of to not do that to myself anymore. The wooden peg, find something less bad to replace it with. So now I'm kind of doing the gluten-free pizza. It's like, okay, I want that gluten and it's gonna mess up my stomach. Just get the gluten-free pizza. Yeah, it's not as good, but it's a good replacement for me going and eating the wheat and have my stomach hurt for 6 hours and having to, there's kind of the karma. There've been times when I've like been on the toilet and I've been like, oh, this is my karma. I'm like sitting there hurting. I'm like, oh, like it tasted so good, but now I'm like suffering. I've even said it out loud, like, oh my karma, like, oh my God, like why? Why did I do this to myself? And that was always the funniest thing with the food with kind of spirituality. It's like just like life, you keep doing things that are bad for you, but it hurts so good. It's like, but there's a point where you like hit rock bottom and you burn yourself out. I kind of feel like the wooden peg when the boulder crushes you, then you have to do something different, like the rock bottom. And I think the wooden peg prevents the rock bottom because if you keep switching out the wooden, there'll always be a wooden peg. There'll always be something that you're doing that isn't the good thing, but it should be the least bad thing possible. So I kind of view the wooden peg as a way to keep trading it out. So it's kind of like, for the alcoholic, maybe now they're drinking coffee like crazy or cigarettes. I know there's with cigars, actually, I found a lot of former drug addicts in the cigar world because they got off the drugs, but they need some sort of stimulant. And even for myself, I kind of feel like cigars is the wooden peg for me. I'm not necessarily a type that likes a ton of dopamine. My biggest addiction in life and always has been coffee. Like not the worst wooden peg in the world, but there's been periods where I've gotten off of it, but it's bad for me in so many ways. It's like it's acidic, it's bad for the body, the stimulation, you kind of crash. I started in college, I've been addicted to coffee. That's my true addiction for was it 20 years now, 30? Maybe I'm drinking. I used to be drinking 5, 6 cups a day. Now I'm down to like a third of a cup a day to a cup a day. And that's still too much. I still haven't found the wooden peg for it because in corporate world, sometimes you just need to get going. You need that fake energy. So it's been a struggle. That a level of corn addiction, PORN. That's been easier because it's not something that I need necessarily. That's been oddly easier to kind of drop off because I don't necessarily need it. It's not something that helps me in life. So kind of like alcohol for me, I never was a big it's easy to throw away something that you're not that into anyways. Even for me, poker has never truly been an addiction, but it's something I've wasted a lot of time. So sometimes I feel like we have these like quasi addiction that are slightly negatively affecting your life, but that's the issue is they can grow. And I think I talked about this in one of my other videos. I had a friend that he was like a psychologist. He had a good job or whatever, lived in a nice apartment, but like he went broke and like that always scared me because it was like he wasn't even that good of a player. He was like above average a little bit, but it was like there was something a little off about him. I remember he would host games and stuff, and I remember when I heard the story that like he lost so much money that he, he couldn't make it home from Vegas. Like he had to like borrow money or something to fly home or something crazy. And I remember one time I was, I was a super low stakes player, and I was telling him he wanted to play the high stakes, and I played a little bit the high stakes, so I just kind of warned him, man, like I think at that point I think I'd lost. That was when I'd lost $2,500 over the course of a year or so, and I had to win it back over the course of another year or two. I told him that story of like, hey man, like I tried, we're not as good as we think we are. It's still a game. Like, don't do it. It was a complete waste of my time. And he was like, no, I'm doing it. And this was probably a few years before I heard that story. And then a friend recently told me maybe a couple years back that she ran into him at the casino and he had like stains on his shirt and he'd been there and he was asking to borrow money. Like, she might have gave him a few dollars, but like, that was always my fear. Like, maybe the universe showed me that early on that, like, don't ever let it get to you like that. That's part of the reason too I'm like getting out of it is like there's like a hungry ghost that's there that can start taking over. It's like with the ocean, you don't turn your back on the ocean. It's all common and then one rogue wave hits and then you might be drowning or pulled out to sea. I kind of feel like things that are right on that border of addiction, they can cause that boulder to come crashing down on you if you're not careful. It's these like quasi addictions that are like not necessarily something, but like if not watched carefully, it's kind of like a snake that could, when people have these like poisonous snakes as pets, it always shocks me. Like that thing can bite and kill you. Like you're having to like manage it so carefully so you don't get hurt. And that's kind of how I feel how addiction kind of is. It's like you're having to manage this poisonous rattlesnake that could just get you at any moment. But generally it's fine. It's in the case. And like if you're on top of it, but you know, maybe you do something stupid. And I do still remember a story in Vegas. I remember I won a tournament and I was in a cab or Uber and all happy. And this guy was like, "Oh, so where are you coming from?" I go, "I just won a tournament." And he like went on the spiel because he was a former dealer. Like, don't ever play poker. It's like the only thing, like gambling's the only thing where you can like lose millions of dollars. Like you can't even smoke through that much blow. Like if you're a drug addict, like the body can only like you could just lose everything. And then like when I was getting out of the Uber, I was like, okay. He's like, you promised me you'll never. And he was like my maybe younger than me. I was probably 30s, the mid 30s. Maybe he was a little bit older, and he was like really like, promise you'll never play again. And I just kind of lied because it was like he was being so crazy about it. I'm like, yeah, sure. And when I got I was going to the Pinball Hall of Fame. I remember I bought like a keychain that had a little like poker chip as a reminder of what he said because it still didn't have an effect on me from like a Uber driver in Vegas. Like maybe he seen it or he had the addiction to it, and that always kind of stuck with me. The fact that I'm mentioning it now, and I don't plan um these talks. I just have the idea, so I kind of just stream of consciousness it. So it's funny that it's popping up right now, which means it's deep in my psyche. It's probably happened 5, 10 years ago, and it's coming back to me now. So that sort of these sort of addictions, that rattlesnake idea, it's I don't like surrounding myself with multiple snakes. So it's like the poker's been one that's been around me since I've been 20 years old. I'm 40 now. It's been 20 years. It's time to retire. It's time to release that snake back in the wild. I don't like that mental having to watch myself or if I'm playing too much, which has happened occasionally where I'm like getting back into it again because it's a relief giving it up, honestly. Just like not having that thing to manage and like having to track when I'm winning and losing and you know it's kind of great actually. It's like trying to I had the sunk cost fallacy in it that's been always stuck with me too, where I learned that in the accounting world where it's like you keep putting money into something because you've already invested so much. And I'm like, you're like too good to quit. I've even said that to people. I'm like, not good enough to like really be a champion, but I'm not, but I'm put so much effort and I'm too good to quit. I am better than average, but and I don't really want to dedicate it to my, I always used to joke like I could make more at work at the end of the day. There's been times where I play low stakes. I make $9 after 9, 10 hours of play, like playing online or something. And it's like, yeah, it was fun or whatever, but like time value, opportunity cost, it's just a joke. That's the killer. You don't get the time back. That's my issue with anything that's an addiction or even something that you're spending too much time on, and I think it also allows you when you get away from these things, when you wouldn't peg at something better. I'd rather overwork out a little. And I've had periods where I definitely did, but it was better than spending more time on this sort of stuff. And I kind of feel like it when you switch out the wooden peg, you keep switching it out. It kind of promotes more of it. You keep wanting to go farther and farther down. And even for me with diet, with like no meat. I try like a true no meat diet, but then I get like too airy, too not wanting to like be involved in the worldly affairs, not getting things done, not, having energy, but not having energy for the corporate life, kind of those sort of things, and I needed a wooden peg, and my wooden peg is like I eat most 80% vegetarian diet and then like 20% meat. Like so And that's the idea of the wooden peg. That boulder will always be there. We're human. There's very few people that I meet where they really don't have any sort of addictions. Often I find a lot of people have the God addiction. They're just, their whole life is they're spending like my parents are like that actually. Like my brother and I joke where it's like they treat the priest better than they treated us as kids. Like we'd have priests over at the house. I still remember one time some like Mormons or something or came up to the door and like, "Oh, do you guys host like services here?" Because my mom's like playing like Swing Low Sweet Chariot blaring with their screen door locked, but like the main door is open. Like like they're constantly like we had like a constant church service in the house. It was like nonstop, even when we go home now. And it's like I could see how offensive that is to people in a way where it's like, they're like that. And I try not to be like that. And but that's their wooden peg. They over invest in that. They've spent so much money on the church, giving money in all these events. Like their lives are that's all there is in their life, which isn't a bad thing. I see some wisdom in it as I've gotten older. you'd rather invest in that than so many other things. But I find myself doing some of the same in a way where I've kind of pulled my circle smaller and I do less and less. I am more focused on kind of spiritual pursuits. So in a way, like they say, you as a human, you've probably signed a soul contract to come here to experience things. And maybe that was my thing. I wanted you choose your parents kind of thing, you choose your life path, or you at least choose the general path, like your decisions will lead you up to the mountain. You're going to end up at the mountaintop, but you can meander how you wish here. And I think seeing my parents like that, there is, I think Ananda Maima says something like, it's good as a child to be exposed to spirituality because then when things go bad in your life, you have some like kind of rock to go back to. And it's true. It's like it helps to see that I'm not crazy where it's like leading that spiritual life is like with God-centered life. But it is a wooden peg to some degree because you have to be careful not to neglect everything else in that pursuit. Because there was definitely a period where I was more focused on that than even being a father. And and it's definitely not that anymore, but there was a point where like that became like a weight that you're going too far with things. And so I kind of saw that with my own parents, see how that can happen because your child just becomes, especially being divorced, I think you're you don't get to see your kid every day, so the disconnect starts forming. And especially with my line of work too, it's like you have to kind of give up. Um, you have to give up a lot to be in kind of consulting like I am. And I didn't know that getting in. I mean, I've been an independent consultant, like, 1099er before, but this was my first kind of like full-time consulting. And I've been here 8 years. And yeah, it's gotten to the point where like the expectations have gotten so high that it's become like an addiction. I remember a former girl I was talking to, she said something, "You're married to your job." And I'm like, "I'm not married. I don't even want to do this, but I'm in a tough spot where like I have to continue." So like there's, workaholics. There was a point in my life where I was a workaholic too. And that was a wooden peg for many years, I believe, where I was like just trying to like make it and not be a brokey and not, have some semblance of a career. So I wasn't just constantly having to move from shit corporate job to shit corporate job, trying to make it, trying to pay the bills, where it was like you're just hand to mouth kind of thing. You have like no breathing room. And I'm fine, I've been away from that since I took this job really 8 years ago. It was like the first time in life where like, oh, I don't have to look at the grocery bill necessarily. I can get what I want. I can, go on vacation and not worry about what the final bill is. I don't have to micromanage myself on like, oh no, you can't afford that and this and that. But that wooden peg doesn't work for me anymore. It stopped working in 2020 where I think a lot of office workers in particular, we had that existential crisis. You're like continuing to work, the world shut down. All you can go to is a grocery store. You can't even be social because of the social distancing kind of thing. And it was kind of like, I think a lot of us office workers had that existential crisis. The great resignation came after it and I know I had that. It was like the best thing for me because that was right, literally like the month before COVID happened my ex-wife, we were separated, but that's when she confirmed, like, no, we're getting divorced. And, it was like it couldn't have been better timing because by the time COVID hit, she was already out of the house. So it was like I had a lot of time to think. And I didn't have to for many years, I just really hated the wooden peg. Like I was resentful that I'm not strong enough to not need the wooden peg. But it did help to see, AA and other systems usually are essentially a wooden peg. But even still, there was like, I don't like feeling like I can't have that level of discipline. I remember when high school running, I remember like my final race, I just like, I couldn't, my body was like giving in and I didn't know like what was going on. Like I thought it was more than a mental thing. There was something physically wrong with my legs, and I didn't know it at the time, but I had herniated tibialis muscles, And later in life, it happened again when I picked up running, or at least the pain returned. And then I was like, oh, it wasn't a moral weakness. Like I literally had a physical problem. So I'm like, how did I like in that race? I could have went to state. I was in sectionals or regionals, and I could have went to state. And I was like, I got passed by like 10 people at the like last half mile kind of thing. And it was like my coach was even shocked because he knows he's ex-military. He knows I have like a no quit attitude, but there was something wrong. And so the wooden peg does feel like that failure to me if I'm honest with myself 100%. Just having to have the wooden peg there like bothers me. It's like it looks musty. It's like in my mind's eye, I see the wooden peg there, like fissured, holding up this stone like a piece of cork holding up a giant boulder. And it's like no matter how small that little wooden peg is, it's there. Like I'm not strong enough to beat my own addictions without something. But at the same time, I've tried and failed so many times. I know now, with diet, with corn, with poker, with whatever, you have to have something. And, for me too, being a father made it easier in a lot of ways because once I feel like people don't grow up until they have a child. It puts things in perspective. You have someone outside of you have to take care of. It's not all about your needs. You have someone else's needs. It's not someone you can just, a relationship, whether it's a girlfriend or a wife. At the end of the day, you can get divorced. You don't have to deal with that person again. But the child, whether you're with the woman or not, it's a lifelong responsibility. So I think there brings a level of like maturity, and you could push a lot harder. Even for myself, there's many times where I just wanted to give up working 24 to 36 hour shifts, and it's like you just want to give up, but it just affects too many other people. And I think people can be so strong fighting for the kids. Mothers have lifted up cars. I can see that where it gives you kind of that driven purpose. So I feel like fatherhood's been a wooden peg, kind of like religion, I think, for a lot of people, where you fight for your family and you can kind of other things can fall away.